Welcome to I Said What I Said. I'm Brad Wakai. That's Tyson Gentri. We're coming off breaking down the Western Conference side of things in the NBA. Telling you who's the real guys in that conference, who's the contenders, who can win, who's got no chance, who's a pretender, all that good stuff. So we're doing it for the Eastern Conference. Go check out the West if you're curious about this. Tyson, we're back in this house breaking the Eastern Conference down. Now, I think the West is kind of interesting in terms of the top and like kind of some people behind them. I don't necessarily see that in the East. I'm curious how everything breaks down for you.
Well, I think that in the West, you can like talk yourself into some of these stars out there and just say, well, they can win a series. They can win a 7-game series by themselves. But once you get down in the East, like once you really get past maybe the Bucks and then you start talking about like the Pacers and the Magic and teams like that, it gets hard to convince yourself some of these guys who have never done it are going to do it for the first time against the defending NBA champion.
Yeah, that's the thing. That is the thing. And they've had a stranglehold in the East for a little bit now. So let's get into it. Let's start right away and talk about the contenders, who we think can actually come out of the East, who we think can actually win the championship. Tyson, I have two teams. It's the defending NBA champion Boston Celtics and the Cleveland Cavaliers, who made an interesting coaching change in the offseason. I think it's paid in absolute spades for them. Getting Kenny Atkinson, kind of forward-thinking coach. J.B. Bickerstaff, I think, has been good for the Pistons, but that thing wore itself thin. I'm curious who you have in your contenders list.
Yeah, I have those two as well. I think that with Cleveland especially, their offense is sick, man. Like it's disgusting. The way it's almost different than the way everybody. This is teaching tape for the rest of the NBA. Oh, this is like playing in like a league when you're 4 or 5, 6 years old and your coach makes you get 7 passes before you put a shot up. That's how the Cavs play for real. And it's beautiful. 44-10, and they had a good deadline, man. I think that it went a little under the radar with some of the crazy stuff that happened, but they have good players and they're deep. And then with Boston, we don't need to keep doing this with them. Like they're the defending champions. This is who they are. LeBron left the East, and the Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown just said, "Okay, we're going to run it then."
Yeah, it's interesting because Boston hasn't had the same dominating regular season. I think that's good, right? Like there's no reason for them to exert their energy. Like you accomplished what you need to accomplish last year,
which is ridiculous to say out loud. They're 39-16.
I know. And Tyson, I think honestly what it is, because they just destroyed bad teams last season. Yeah. It was like, oh my God, they're going to win by 30. And they've been losing these games, like the Nets game that dropped, and the Sixers never beat them, but they almost beat them. And they get clipped by somebody here and there. Oh, they go on the road, they lose. They had a bad West Coast trip, and it's like, man, what's wrong with the Celtics? I do think, though, there is a little bit of cause for concern with Boston if you really want to talk about can they go back to back on just some of the baseline stuff. Like their defense, it's still been good. They're 5th in points per possession on a 100% basis. It's not the same elite defense that it was. Now, again, I say that by also adding, are they trying as hard as they did last year? It doesn't feel that way. So I think there is still room for improvement there. But Tyson, we know it's hard to flip the switch in this league, right? Like you kind of coast and coast. Next thing you know, that's your mentality. So I think they got to get out of that. But it's still, they're still 4th in offense in points per 100 possessions. They're 5th in defense in that metric. Like it's a great team. So that's why I think they're contenders. And plus, we just saw them do it. Like this is the NBA. You got to show us. This is what we're about on this show. They did it. We thought they were going to do it against the Warriors a couple of years ago. They were able to accomplish that last year, and I think they're still in a prime position. Now, the Cleveland Cavaliers, I think, are for real, Tyson. Mm-hmm. You talk about their offense. They're 1st in the league when it comes to points per 100 possessions. They're sick. Defensively, they're also really good. 8th in that metric. And I think it has to do with my belief, at least in them, is the step forward that Evan Mobley has taken in his career.
Dude, doesn't this feel good? Doesn't it feel good to see Evan Mobley be like when he's at USC and it's people are like, I don't know about this guy. They only went there because his brother and all this stuff. And there's people who have been watching this kid since he was 16 that are like, no, he's special. Like he's really, really good. And it was a slow burn with Evan Mobley. But we talked about Jaren Jackson in the West Coast or the Western Conference preview. It's not the same thing. I think Evan Mobley is going to be a better player than Jaren Jackson over the long haul. But it was fast, man. It was like, this guy can't play. This guy can't play. Oh, he's the best player on the team.
It's been really impressive in its ability to knock down a 3. I think that adds a different dimension, right? If he's hitting corner 3s, that offense is impossible to guard as we're seeing that. Look at the freaking offensive rating. Darius Garland doing great facilitating. Tyson, Donovan Mitchell, we kind of view him as a chucker. He's been a little bit more efficient this year, at least when I watch him. I can pull up the numbers and be like, well, actually this and that and whatever. when I'm watching him, I think he's doing a better job of not just doing straight ISO. Like everything's a little bit more into the offense. I think the Atkinson bringing that motion kind of mentality from the Golden State and bring it to this team, I think it's done wonders for him. Like you got the cutters, you got guys who can make the ball screen and crash with Jared Allen. Mobley can do a little of that slashing, but also his ability to stretch is huge. And then you mentioned it. We kind of buried the lead on the Cavs. They have DeAndre Hunter. Yeah. I mean, is he going to start, put Strus to the bench? I don't know. Is he going to be the best six-man Hunter? We'll see. That is a massive addition. Now, he hasn't lived up to the hype that we thought coming out of Virginia, but you put him on this team where he doesn't have to be the number 1 or 2 guy. They are really good, Tyson. I don't want to say that they should be the favorite because I think Boston is until somebody proves otherwise.
I think that Cleveland should be the favorite in the East, like the way that this team is built and they're playing. And that doesn't mean I believe that they're going to beat the Celtics later in the season if those two match up. But from what we've seen through 54 games before the All-Star break, they're the class of the East.
Hey, I mean, you mentioned it. I mean, they look really good. They're sitting tied for the the best record in the NBA at 44-10 with the Thunder as we get ready coming out of the All-Star break. Boston Celtics 5.5 games back. Tyson, let's talk about some other teams here in the perfect path little tier that we have here. And what this is, I kind of coined this as these teams need everything to go right for them if they're going to win a championship, if they're really going to be contenders. Like they can do it, but this has to happen, and this has to be perfect, and everything has to happen like this. So for me, I have the Knicks and the Bucks here. What do you think about those two teams in terms of the perfect path relation?
So I only have the Knicks in this path for the Eastern Conference. I'm interested to hear what you say about the Bucks, and I'm easily persuaded here. But the Knicks, for me, like the perfect path is like this Tom Thibodeau team starts playing defense. Like that's really it's crazy. I think they're like 18th maybe in the NBA right now in defensive rating, which is just not something you're used to seeing. But they have dudes, man. It's like these guys know how to win. Maybe not at the NBA level, but like we've seen a lot of these dudes win some hardware together. They're streaking right now too, and it's an important time to get hot here if you're the Knicks. And maybe the break will cool them off, but this team is like. I want them to be more physical than they are, and I think that's why I'm struggling with putting them in the contenders tier.
That's the thing, right? It's like that's why I have perfect path because I mean, Cleveland's they got their ass kicked by New York last year. That's not going to happen again this year. I think that the lights were too bright. They're going to be ready this time around. They're more physical than the Knicks. It's just who's going to defend. I trust Cleveland's defense more. I mean, it's shocking. Like they are 18th. It's crazy. Tyson, here's the other thing, too. Are these guys going to run into the ground over the course of this regular season? Freaking Tibbs. I saw some video online at the top, 8 or maybe it's 6 combination of minutes are all Knicks guys. The 3, Brunson, I mean, who's got injury history that he's had, Karl-Anthony Towns, Josh Hart gets banged up. I mean, they're all freaking out there running minutes like they're Iron Men. I mean, it's crazy. That's why we've seen the Knicks have success is because their best players are constantly out in the court. But Tyson, it's the All-Star. We just got to the All-Star break. We got months more of this, and you got to go through a rigorous playoff schedule. We saw them run out of gas last year against the Pacers, right? I mean, they just ran out of gas. They beat the Sixers, and it was like, okay, we're out of gas. It was like, wow, that was pretty shocking. And I would be hard-pressed to think that doesn't happen for them again this year. I mean, it's just too many minutes on those legs. And we've seen that. I think it's impacting their defense because this defense is not good enough to win a championship. The only reason I put them in perfect path and not pretenders, to be honest with you, is because Jalen Brunson can take over a game. Karl-Anthony Towns looks like he actually fits. Another guy who can take over when it needs to go right, when everything needs to go right. And they can just score enough points that they can beat anybody if everything goes the right way. But over the course of the playoffs, I'm not sure if that happens for them.
Sell me on these Bucks because I'm not believing you that there's a perfect path for the Milwaukee Bucks to win the championship. But if it starts with 34, I can get behind it.
I was going to say, so the reason why it starts with Giannis, right? And I think that's why you're going to be easily persuaded, as Tyson said, because he's like, oh, Giannis is there. We like it. So I'm looking at their metrics, Tyson, and it's a little bit misleading when I watch them because I'm just like, God, it's just a lot of inefficiency surrounding Giannis unless he gets to the paint, which he's doing way more than he's done in his career. At least he's not selling for 3-point shots, which he doesn't need to do anymore because Damian Lillard's on the team. They also got rid of Chris Middleton. and brought in 𝐃𝐨𝐧'𝐭. I know that's kind of a running joke. Oh, inefficient shooter. The guy's a better scorer right now than Chris Middleton. He's going to be more available. I think he's going to give you more points. So that, to me, boosts their offense. Defensively, again, I mean, Chris Middleton was a good defensive player. I mean, we're not talking about 5 years ago. And so it's not like Kuzma out is Gary Payton or anything like that. But, I mean, he's at least going to be on the floor and boost your offense. Now, I'm looking at the Bucks as we stand right now, at 10th in offensive rating when it comes to points per 100 possessions, 15th in defense. I think the offense is going to improve. I think the defense can get better. I don't know how much better it's going to get, Tyson. But the offensive ceiling is through the roof with the addition of Kuzma compared to what they had with Middleton. Why is there a perfect path? Because we know freaking Giannis just dominates the Celtics. And if they can take out the Celtics, it's like, all right, well, they've beaten the Cavs. It's like the Cavs kind of get a little nervous whenever they see the Milwaukee green. And if you're going to take out the Celtics and you have that ability, it's like, whoa, we just took down the king. I guess you're the new king now.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm falling for it with these Bucks. I want to believe it. Giannis is like one of my favorite athletes, regardless of sport, in the world. But dude, my eyes tell me they're slow, and that's really where I'm at. Like they seem slow on rotations, and maybe it's playing possum. But like, yeah, you go get Dame Lillard, and it's awesome and it's fun, and we love Dame. But when he has to now go against the backcourt in Cleveland for a 7-game series, how much legs does he have at 35 years old to be getting these shots up on the other end?
Let's move into the Pretenders section here, Tyson. I mean, I think this is an interesting one because we talk about the East and it's just meh, right? Like it's some star power, sure, but it's not quite like the West. So who's in your Pretenders category?
It's smaller than it was for me in the West. I have the Bucks leading it off, and then the Indiana Pacers after them. I think the Pacers, you said it already, but that's an organization as a whole that I just operate under the ability. Like, you got to show me you can win some of these things. You got to show me, that some of these guys that it's been selling us a bill of goods for a long time on your Miles Turners or whoever else. And it's like, okay, but when the Pacers make the playoffs, they lose. And why are they losing? And, some of these things, it's fun. Maybe they can build off of last year. I don't think they have the juice. And then I have the Pistons and Magic kind of like neck and neck here. That might not make total sense, but I think both these teams, in the most complimentary way I can put it, are a year away from being a year away. Like, this is let's go to the playoffs, see what we can make happen, and then next year you're hoping for like a second round or a conference finals appearance. And again, like, there's a lot of talent at the top of the East when we talk about these superstars, and it's not that Cade Cunningham can't do that for a 7-game series, or that Paolo Banchero can't do that for a 7-game series. But who's the second guy on some of these teams? Like, I love Wagner, but it's not the same thing as like Giannis gets to pass the ball out to Damian freaking Lillard. Like, and so you got to show me, and I think if there are teams that I have above the Magic and the Pistons that I think would trade places with them organizationally, rosters, so to speak, for the future. I just don't think they're winning anything meaningful, as far as we talk about it. Like, it's going to mean a ton to those organizations, but it's not the same thing as like, it's not going to be on your ESPN, feed. Like, I can't believe, look, dude, the Pistons turnaround from a year ago is already nuts. We don't have to put championship expectations on these guys.
No, 100%. And I have the Pacers, the Magic, the Pistons in the Pretender section as well. I also have the Hawks. So I'm curious your thoughts on that. And we'll get to that. Pretenders, what are you talking about? Magic, Pistons, they suck. Well, the Pistons are 6th in the East. They're 3 games above 500 coming out of the All-Star break. Orlando's 7th, 27-29. They haven't had their best freaking player for a long time. They heard an oblique. He's still coming back. Then Mo Wagner got hurt. I mean, it's a walking infirmary there. I echo a lot of what Tyson's saying with the Pistons and Magic. It's just too soon for them. I think, if I'm looking at things like, okay, so how can they get to the next level here? Well, I'll tell you, if you're the Magic, you got to get better offense. And I don't know if it's coaching thing here. I hate always putting it on coaches. Like, well, the coach has to be in charge of that. There's just not a lot of offensive creativity going on in Orlando. I'm looking to see where they're at here, and I don't know why it's pulling up because I'm freaking pretty much at the bottom. Yes, they're 29th in offensive rating on points per 100 possessions. Awful, just atrocious. Now, their defense is what keeps them in games. They are 3rd, and you can see that. Like, they play really hard on defense. They have long guys. They pressure. The offense is just not there yet. So you're going to have to get another wing. You're going to have to get another scorer to help them out there. As far as it goes with Detroit, Tyson, metrically, they are a much better team, I think, than people are even giving them credit for. They are 15th in offensive rating, I think, points per 100 possession, and 10th in defense. Like, this is a team that's taken the next step. 𝐃𝐨𝐬 Cunningham, I'd call him the best prospect I've seen in a long time. People are like, what about Mobley? I thought Cunningham was, levels above just what he's able to do, and he's staying healthy. I think he is really good. He is the future for the Detroit Pistons if they can build around him. And I think they did that with Jalen Duren. Really good big man. He's starting to come on his own. I think develop a jumper, but that's looking down the future. They're not even close to competing with the Celtics, competing with the Cavs when it comes to right now. And if you can win a championship, Pacers, it's Tyson. Come on, you said it all, man. Really, it's the defense. The defense sucks. I mean, Rick Carlisle won a championship with the Mavs, and it's like he's a made man now, and that's how it works in the NBA. Yeah. But you had Dirk Nowitzki, you had Jason Kidd, you had great role players, Jason Terry, JJ Barea, all these guys, and just Tyson Chandler just playing their roles perfectly. What are the roles in Indiana? Right? Is Tyrese Halliburton the guy? Like, everybody was trying to tell me that, he's so much better than Domantas Sabonis, and how stupid the Kings were to trade him. Really? I think I'd rather have Sabonis right now. And we talk about the Miles Turner thing. He's posting funny memes, surviving another trade deadline, and this team is, I just don't, as currently constructed, not there yet. Pascal Siakam continues to regress from the NBA Finals winning season. So yeah, I'm with you there. And the Hawks, they're the Hawks. It's like the same thing with the Pacers. Like, what's going on there?
So you asked me what my thoughts were. In my notes here, I just have Pacers, Hawks. Like, that's the same point.
It's the same team.
Yeah.
And listen, Trae Young, I think, is taking his game to the nenext level. Got the All-Star nod, but Tyson, they're 17th in offensive rating, 100 points per 100 possession, 14th in defensive rating. We like the Quinn Snyder, the coach there, compared to what they've had in the past. It's just the same team. It's the Hawks. They get up for big games, they lose the bad ones.
Yeah, and there is no, the Hawks have made their way into our televisions, into our living rooms, into our hearts by beating a 76ers team that had guys that didn't want to be there, by beating a dead New York Knicks team, like some of these things in the playoffs. I don't see those teams in the East right now. Like, the Hawks aren't building a name because they beat the Pacers in the first round of the playoffs.
Okay, let's close out here. Let's get into our lottery teams here, folks. Now, this is interesting because you're noticing there's a lot of names missing. And these aren't necessarily the teams, because some of these teams could potentially get in, right? Like, we could have the Magic fall out. We could have Pistons fall out if the wheels come off, all that. But these are the teams that we think either for sure will be in the lottery or should be in the lottery. And so that's what we're going to focus on here. Tyson and I have the Heat, the Bulls, the Sixers, my 76ers, the Nets, the Raptors, the Hornets, and the Wizards. So let's start kind of getting your thoughts here, and let's go through them.
The Wizards are one of the worst NBA teams of all time. So it's easy. They're done. They're the worst team in the NBA. They've looked like the worst team in the NBA. Everyone knew this was coming. The Hornets, it's just like, come on, brother. Like, this is not necessarily what we expected, but maybe what we should have with this team. And they've had some tough injury luck as well, kind of throughout the season. But they just don't have any depth, man, and it's bad. The Raptors and Nets are almost running like the most professional tank I've ever seen, where it's like it's so random, the times that they choose to beat good teams and the times they choose to lose. It's almost like they're not even doing it on purpose. And then the Bulls, Sixers, and Heat that you mentioned at the top there, this is where I had the Phoenix Suns in purgatory in the West. I think all three of these teams are going to be stuck chasing their tail for a little while in the East. The 76ers, chief among them. This is not new territory to the Chicago Bulls. This is where they've been for quite a while. Like, ever since, to me, the nail in the coffin of this entire organization was adding Dwayne Wade and running that big three experiment just to put butts in the seats. They're like a worse version of your Pittsburgh Steelers in the NFL, where it's like, oh man, the Bulls did this. And then with the Heat, it's like, sure, they might make it as the 8th seed here, like hit the play-in tournament, win that, and then all of a sudden we look up and Bam Adebayo's in the finals again, and you go, man, this Heat culture is just different. They just don't have the dudes. They didn't have the dudes with Jimmy Butler. They didn't have the dudes when they made the finals a couple years ago, or they made the finals a couple of years before that, and that's why it was so like, wow, I can't believe they're doing this. You can't keep preaching to me Heat culture and then finishing the regular season with 40 wins.
Yeah, and Tyson wrapped up the Nets, Raptors, Hornets, Wizards thing. I'm not touching that. I'll just put a thing on. The Sixers are just
They're in trouble.
All the goodwill that they built through the process when it was that, it's just dead now. Like, nobody cares. Everybody loves Maxey. Everybody wants, and they should do this. That's why I say they should tank. This is actually a good draft. Freaking get somebody actually that wants to be there and play and build around 𝐠'Žehrad-𝐭, who looks like he's actually a guy. Now, he tore his knee up, so we'll have to see what he looks like coming back. He's a shooter, so at least you can. That's something you can work with. And build around Tyrese Maxey. Tear everything else down. It just it beat things tough. I mean, Daryl Morey, I think he wanted to save his job and salvage things. It's just not working. The Paul George, he's injured. It's just bad if you're the Sixers and you are in purgatory. You are screwed. Nothing that you can do will fix that unless you can take somebody. Maybe it's the Suns. I don't know. Give you more picks for Embiid and just keep convincing them that
in 2037.
Good God. I mean, it's just so bad right now for the Sixers. Bulls, they're like Dave Franco or James Franco in was it Franco when he's got the rope around his neck and he's like, first time?
Yeah.
He in purgatory, you're like, oh, we've been here. Like, this is your first time here? Welcome.
Yeah. Checkouts at noon. We can give you a late one. Yeah, I mean, it's about a Buster Scruggs for this group. And you almost have to feel bad a little bit because, like, this is a different sport, but in the NFL, like when Patriots fans start complaining, it's like, shut up, dude. You just finished the craziest run we've ever seen. There are Bulls fans that are, our age. Like, they're pushing 30 years old that don't remember any of this stuff, didn't get to see any of this stuff. And like you go in the arena and you're looking at these banners from the 90s and it's like, wow, we really were the best. And then you have like the Derrick Rose years where you didn't actually win anything. And then you have some of those years afterwards where you didn't actually win anything. And then worst of all is you had the years that you sucked, and you sucked on purpose, and you walked out of it with what?
Nothing. And that's why they're in this situation.
Kobe White?
Hey, he's our guy now, man. He's just crazy. The Heat, this could be a fall from grace. And we say that, and the Godfather, Pat Riley, he's going to freaking pull something out, and we'll see what happens. So, but I don't think it's there in the cards for the Heat this year. Tyson said maybe – the Heat culture, their offense sucks. 21st,
so Tyler
Hero's a guy, but other than that, it's not good enough. So, yeah, that's basically where I'm at on this, Tyson. When I'm looking at it, there's two horses that I got coming out of this thing. It's either the Cavs or the Celtics.
Yeah, and then there's somebody like way in the back on a chariot racer, like a lap behind everybody, but they got a gun, and that's the New York Knicks.
Yeah, maybe they could shoot him down. So, okay, we didn't talk any futures, didn't talk any betting, but Tyson, that doesn't mean we're not seeing if we can get a little value as we get into the second half. Where can they find that?
Discord app, group name, as I said what I said. If you listen to this and you're like, these guys are so dumb, the Celtics are easily winning the East this year. They're going to win the NBA Finals again, and this time Tatum's getting his MVP. Let us know what number you got that at, what book you got it at, and all of that other stuff in the Discord app, group name. I said what I said. Tons of different channels in there, not just basketball. I mean, we got golf starting out, brother.
Yeah, I mean, we got a ton of stuff coming on here. So that's why you got to stay subscribed so you don't miss a single thing here on YouTube. We got a ton of content. It's not just basketball. We got you covered for March Madness, but we got NFL draft, college football, all these things that just never sleep. We got you covered here. So like the show on the way out. If you're watching on YouTube, smash that like button, share it with a friend, share it with an enemy. You know how we do it here. Go listen to The West if you haven't already, and we will talk to you when we talk to you as we figure out our content schedule. Talk to you guys then. Peace.